The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. Let's talk about Call of Cthulhu. Hi everyone, my name is Justin and welcome to Game On, a show all about tabletop gaming from RPGs to board games and everything in between. This is the first video in a series I'm going to be calling The Essentials Guide to the Call of Cthulhu RPG. There are plenty of resources out there. There are forums, things like Reddit, even Seth Skorkowski on YouTube. He's probably like the top one I can think of, where they tell you how to make step-by-step characters, campaigns, and figure out how to run ideas and games for the Call of Cthulhu game series. This is not that. This is the gaps that I think that most people don't address and things that I have learned over the years as a player and a keeper. And why I wanted to start this with Cosmic Horror is because that's what Call of Cthulhu is, but Call of Cthulhu and Cosmic Horror is kind of a hard thing to understand for some people. Some people have to be refreshed on what it is, so let's do that. So what is Cosmic Horror? It's sometimes called Lovecraftian horror, and that's the fear of the unknown and the sudden realization of the unknown. The first part is the fear or maybe even the ignorance of the unknown. Think of you walking down a sidewalk and you step on an anthill and you kill a couple of ants. Are you an evil person for that? I would say no. I think most people would say no. You didn't mean to step on them, they were there. Oh my gosh, I didn't even see them. Well, that's kind of akin to us being the ants, and these eldritch horrors, larger than life gods, who accidentally obliterate us. Yeah, the ants think that we're really bad because we disrupted and destroyed their whole livelihood, whereas we were like, whoops. That is part of this eldritch horror, this cosmic horror. There is something so big out there that we, the ants, get obliterated by this thing. And it didn't even know we were there. It didn't mean to. It just does. It's the thought that there's something so almost infinitely huge, if not infinitely huge, that will accidentally destroy us all, and it didn't even mean to. Heck, even Azathoth, if he just wakes up, everybody dies. So, it's not necessarily his fault, it just does, because we're just one giant dream. But the second part of Cosmic Horror is the realization of the actual true reality. So what you and I are experiencing right now in the Call of Cthulhu Lovecraftian world is the very thin veil of the false reality of what I'm saying. I can touch things, I can, feel the wood desk, and I can see the birds out the window, and I can hear the cows across the street. That is just paper thin, and as soon as you figure out the way to look past that, maybe tear a little bit through this thin veil sheet of paper that is covering real reality, you can see just how terrifying the real reality is. There's so much out there that you can't even comprehend. Unfathomable creatures and locations, dimensions that you can't even wrap your brain around. And in the Lovecraftian world, like Call of Cthulhu, ignorance is bliss. If you hear or see or experience any of these locations, creatures, or dimensions, your brain can't handle it, and you just you either just explode and die of some sort of brain aneurysm, or you go mentally insane. That's why there's so much insanity and mental kind of in the fiction of Lovecraft, because it's just your brain can't comprehend and wrap its head around all of it. So China Millville is one of Lovecraft's contemporaries. He's kind of a more modern contemporary to him. And he has a quote where he says that Lovecraft's horror is not intrusive, but realization. And what he means by that is it's not a slasher who comes into your life and is trying to kill you, at a lake camp or in your dreams. This is not a supernatural vampire who is trying to buy a house in London and feed on its victims. This is the person either actively or passively understanding what is beyond our current realm of understanding. It is the realization that there is so much more out there than what we can sense. Think about where Lovecraft was coming from in all of this when he was writing these stories. He wrote these in the 1920s and in the 1930s, at least the early 1930s, where in 1920 the neutron was hypothesized or theorized. Two-way transatlantic communication was being perfected. In 1926, the first liquid rocket had launched into space. I think it was 1926 or 25, where insulin had been made for people with diabetes and they can start surviving. Medicines and different ways to treat PTSD, what was known as shell shock back then, from World War I, because people are still dealing with how we've figured out how to mass produce ways to kill each other and the ramifications of it through society. And also in 1930, Pluto was discovered, and the Lovecraft world, Pluto was called Yoggoth by the Mi-Go, who first show up in the Whisperer in Darkness, and those aliens come to Earth. Hey, there is other planets out there that we don't know about still. Is there even more? Is there even greater expanse to this universe and we can't see yet? So that's kind of where his thinking is coming from. All these new technologies, scientific discoveries, inventions coming out. But the more we learn about the universe and the world around us, the more we see that there's much more to learn. So we figure one thing out, and then once we figure that out, the goalpost then moves, because we figured if we figure this thing out, then we're close to finding out the real answer. But then we realized, no, that the real answer is way further down the line than we thought. The Call of Cthulhu RPG does a pretty good job of gamifying this through their sanity system and even their luck system in some situations, where you and I are probably not feeling the existential dread of an ever-expanding universe these days. Though, as a millennial, I am feeling existential dread about my retirement. But that's something different. It does a good job of at least making the characters that you play as feel that kind of dread and spookiness that comes with the Lovecraftian horrors. You play as regular people. You play as somebody, I could be a character in Call of Cthulhu. You could be a character in Call of Cthulhu. This isn't D&D where I can call a god to do a strike on somebody, or I can use my superhuman strength to punch a dragon. You're a regular person, and just like a regular person would react to a creepy alien or the understanding of another dimension, you're gonna slowly lose your sanity. Or, if you try to fight one, you're probably gonna die. You see, guns don't really work on a lot of these monsters. Your players will have to let go of the idea that they can solve the investigation, solve the mystery. this isn't Columbo or a true crime podcast. There's a chance that they might figure out where the dagger was stolen, or why it was stolen, or where it was, and where, like, the cult member left it. This museum might have asked the investigators to go find their old ritual knife that was from, you know, the medieval time period, and they need it found for the opening of the museum tonight. And the players go and find it. It was in some underground tunnels, carved with etchings of weird symbols on the stone walls, and they found it and they returned it. Who stole it? Obviously some sort of cult stole it. Why did they steal it? We don't know. And the players do have to have their buy-in to be like, okay, we might just never know. I know that some people really want to complete the puzzle, really want to figure it out, but in a lot of Lovecraft fiction, you are not given a lot of the stuff that you would think you need to finish the story, put all the pieces together. Lovecraft just keeps it out on purpose, and that's what's going to happen in this game. So you're going to have to get your players to understand that, just so they don't feel as let down. They have to be excited for the idea of, well, that means we just have to play another game and see if we can find out another way. But anyway, that is a quick primer on cosmic horror and the Call of Cthulhu Lovecraftian horror kind of universe. My next video I'm going to do is actually on the eldritch beings themselves, kind of the big boys, the big monsters, gods, eldritch gods. And then after that, I think I'm going to do it on like the smaller aliens, just to kind of help you guys know that kind of stuff. So if you want to see that video, please make sure to subscribe and like this video so I know that you guys actually like this kind of stuff. I want to thank you guys very much for watching, and as always, game on.